You won't believe what a young waitress found hidden inside a millionaire's mansion. It was a photo of herself, as a child. Jasmine's world flipped upside down in an instant. Raised in foster care, she never imagined the secrets lurking. Behind that golden frame, what would you do if your past stared right back at you? Stay with me. And don't forget to hit subscribe to catch every twist in this unbelievable story. Jasmine's hands trembled as she caught her breath, the crystal tray nearly slipping from her fingers. That photo, framed in gold, hanging in the private hallway, was impossible. It was her, 4 years old, wearing that faded pink dress she barely remembered. The same wild curls framing a shy smile she hadn't seen in years. How could this be? How had a picture of her innocent past found its way into the home of Richard Blackwell, the billionaire she'd served champagne to just minutes ago, a man who didn't even know her name? Her mind raced, chaos swirling inside. Who am I really? Every question she'd buried since childhood now screamed for answers. Raised in foster homes, she'd grown used to the gaps, the whispers about lost papers and a difficult past. But nothing had prepared her for this. Nothing had prepared her to stand, invisible, inside a palace built on secrets, facing a man who might be the reason she was lost in the first place. Jasmine's heartbeat thundered in her chest. She tried to steady herself, pressing her palm against the cold marble wall, as if it could anchor her to reality. But reality was fracturing. The quiet hum of the party faded, replaced by the sharp sting of betrayal. That golden frame wasn't just a picture. It was a symbol of abandonment, lies, and a family torn apart by greed. Her lips parted slightly, a whisper escaping. "My God, it's me." The words barely left her mouth before the sharp bark of a security guard's voice sliced through the silence. "Hey, you! What are you doing here? This area's off limits for staff." Jasmine blinked, heart pounding faster. I'm sorry," she stammered, forcing a smile she didn't feel. "I was just looking for the bathroom and got lost." Her voice wavered, but she couldn't let fear win. Not now. The guard grunted, eyes narrowing, but moved on. Jasmine let out a shaky breath and stole one last look at the photo, committing every detail to memory. As she stepped back into the grand hall, the glittering crowd seemed even more distant, the laughter hollow. Her eyes scanned for Richard Blackwell. There he was, standing tall in a sharp tuxedo, charisma pouring from him as he charmed the room with stories of his charitable foundation. The same man who spoke of second chances and broken families, whose generosity was applauded by millionaires, yet whose home held a secret that shattered everything Jasmine thought she knew about family. The cruel irony wasn't lost on her. How could a man who publicly vowed to protect abandoned children be the one who abandoned his own daughter, who had forgotten her so completely that her existence was erased, replaced by lies and silence? Jasmine's chest tightened with a burning mix of anger and sorrow. For years she had carried the weight of being invisible, unwanted, unloved, a shadow drifting through foster homes. But now, standing here, she realized something fierce stirring inside her. This wasn't just about a photo or a lost childhood. It was about reclaiming a stolen identity, about demanding answers from a man who had built an empire on the backs of those he betrayed. "I deserve to know the truth," she vowed silently. Every gesture Richard made tonight, his practiced smile, his carefully chosen words, felt like a mask slipping. She saw the flicker of something darker beneath the surface. Guilt, fear, maybe even the faintest trace of regret. But it was buried deep, locked away behind walls of power and privilege. As Jasmine's gaze locked onto his, an unspoken battle began, between the daughter he forgot and the man who thought he could bury her forever. That night, Jasmine left the mansion with a storm in her soul and a promise on her lips. She would uncover every secret, expose every lie, no matter the cost. Because some ghosts don't stay buried, not when they're ready to rewrite their story. Certainly. Here's a deeply immersive continuation focusing on a key secondary character's perspective, Marcus, the veteran bartender, whose insights add tension and depth to Jasmine's quest. This section explores his emotions, conflicted, loyalties, and fears, enriching the story with a layered viewpoint. Marcus wiped down the worn wooden bar, his hands steady despite the turmoil swirling in his mind. Years of serving Chicago's elite had taught him one thing: everyone wears a mask, but some masks hide horrors deeper than most could imagine. Tonight, as he watched Jasmine maneuver through the glittering crowd, something unsettled him, a storm gathering just beneath her calm smile. He remembered the first time he'd heard whispers about Richard Blackwell's family, long before the man became a celebrated philanthropist. The tragic accident that claimed Helena Blackwell, the mysterious disappearance of the daughter everyone pretended was dead, the sudden fortune that seemed to fall into Richard's lap like a dark blessing. Those rumors had always been half-forgotten gossip, until Jasmine mentioned the name. "Girl, you don't want to mess with that man," Marcus muttered, eyes darting nervously. "He's got fingers in every pie. Police, politicians, even judges. You poke that hornet's nest, you better be ready to get stung." Jasmine's gaze met his, steady and unyielding. "Why?" she asked quietly. "What's really going on?" Marcus leaned in, voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "You remember the stories about Helena. She wasn't just some grieving wife. She fought tooth and nail against corrupt adoption rings, said she was close to breaking something big wide open, and then, bam, accident. Nobody saw the truth, but those of us who know. Helena was silenced, permanently." He paused, rubbing a hand over his graying beard. "And that daughter of theirs, she just vanished. Official story says dead in the same crash, but some of us suspect otherwise. That girl was never meant to survive, or be found." Marcus's eyes flickered with guilt. "I've worked events where Richard strutted around, playing the hero, raising millions for kids just like the one who vanished. It sickened me. The man's living off a lie so deep it's poisoning everything good in this city." Jasmine's fists clenched at her sides, but she didn't flinch. "So why haven't you said anything before? Why not help expose him?" The bartender's laugh was bitter. "Because it's not that simple. Richard's got power, real power. People disappear for less. I've seen good folks lose everything just for whispering his name wrong. I'm an old man now, and I'm scared. But seeing you here, it's different. You've got fire. You're not just some lost girl. You're the reckoning he never saw coming." A silence settled between them, thick with unspoken fears and fragile hope. Marcus's voice softened. "If you want to find the truth, you're gonna need more than courage. You'll need allies, and a hell of a plan." As Jasmine looked at the man who had lived on the fringes of this glittering nightmare, she felt something shift inside her. The path ahead was darker and more dangerous than she'd imagined, but now she knew she wasn't alone. Marcus was right. This wasn't just a personal battle. It was a war against a fortress built on lies, greed, and silence, and she was ready to tear it down. The tension in Marcus's eyes wasn't just fear. It was the weight of knowing the cost of truth in a world ruled by power. Watching Jasmine, he dared to believe justice could still find a way. Jasmine sat alone in the dim back room of the cafe, where she worked mornings before her shifts at the mansion. The flickering fluorescent light buzzed overhead as her fingers hovered over the keyboard, hesitating. Fake profiles, online threads, old newspaper archives, every click dredged up pieces of a past she was desperate to reclaim, yet terrified to face. Her heart pounded with a mix of hope and dread. What if this isn't the truth? What if the man she suspected was her father really was innocent? Or worse, what if the truth was far darker than she could imagine? The weight of years lost pressed down, squeezing tight. Memories she didn't have, questions she wasn't sure she wanted answered. But the golden frame she saw in Blackwell's mansion haunted her still. A silent accusation that demanded reckoning. A knock on the door startled her. Margaret Santos, a retired private investigator with sharp eyes and a quieter voice than you'd expect from someone who'd chased down criminals for decades, stepped inside. Burning the midnight oil again? Margaret asked, settling into the worn chair across from Jasmine. You need rest, not another sleepless night chasing ghosts. Jasmine shook her head. This isn't just ghosts, Margaret. It's real. It's me. And the longer I wait, the more I think he knows. Or, worse, that he's already watching. Margaret's eyes narrowed. Richard Blackwell's no small-time villain, Jasmine. If he suspects you're onto him, things could get dangerous. You don't want to be careless. Jasmine swallowed hard, fingers tightening around her coffee cup. I don't have a choice. I have to know the truth. About my mother, about him, about what happened to me. All these years I've lived like a ghost. It's time to become something else. Margaret leaned forward, voice low. I can help, but this won't be easy. You're up against a man who built an empire on lies and silence, and empires don't crumble quietly. The next weeks became a whirlwind. Days spent scouring public records, nights interviewing anyone who might remember Helena Blackwell, the activist mother who fought tooth and nail against adoption corruption. Friends whispered half-truths, enemies held their tongues tightly. One evening, Jasmine's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown. "The number. Stop digging or you'll regret it." The warning sent a cold shiver down her spine. Her first real sign that her quest was stirring dangerous waters. She looked to Margaret. I'm not scared. Margaret sighed. That's what worries me. But Jasmine's resolve only hardened. Her investigation revealed startling facts. Helena hadn't just died in a car accident, as the official story claimed. She'd been investigating a powerful illegal adoption ring. A ring that, according to confidential sources, had ties directly to Richard Blackwell's network. Documents surfaced. Old photos, letters Helena wrote in the weeks before her death. One letter, addressed to a trusted friend, hinted at exposing the monster hiding in plain sight. Jasmine read it aloud in the quiet of her apartment. If anything happens to me, promise you'll protect my daughter. Her breath caught. That daughter was her. Each discovery sharpened the edges of betrayal and cruelty she'd suspected all along. Richard hadn't just lost his wife and daughter. He'd made sure they disappeared. Not only that, he had falsified death certificates, accepted life insurance payouts, and built a philanthropic facade to cover his sins. Jasmine's nights grew restless. Fear gnawed at her, but so did anger. Anger at the man who traded a little girl's life for millions. Anger at a system that protected the powerful and ignored the vulnerable. At work, the mansion's grandeur mocked her daily. Marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers, while she carried trays of champagne unnoticed, invisible to those who could never imagine her story. Then came the day she confronted Marcus again. People talk, Marcus said quietly, sliding a file across the bar. I found something for you, but be careful, this isn't just dirt, it's dynamite. Inside the file were photos of Helena's autopsy report, a faded newspaper clipping about Richard's third marriage, another short-lived union with a young woman who'd signed strict prenups, and, most chilling, a document suggesting Helena's death wasn't accidental at all. Jasmine's hands trembled as she traced the words. Poison detected. Cause of death, deliberate. Her world spun and she sat back, stunned. This wasn't just a family tragedy. It was cold-blooded murder. Why would he kill her? Jasmine whispered. To protect his empire. To keep you quiet. Marcus's voice was grim. You're not just fighting a man, Jasmine. You're fighting a monster. That night, Jasmine couldn't sleep. The darkness around her felt suffocating but also strangely electrifying. She wasn't the scared foster kid anymore. She was a daughter wronged, a daughter awake. The clock ticked, plans formed. Her next move needed to be smart, precise, and bold. She began creating fake social media profiles, contacting distant relatives, old friends of Helena, anyone who could help unearth the truth. Every message sent was a thread pulled in a web of deceit, but every step forward was met with resistance. Strange phone calls, unmarked cars trailing her. the unmistakable feeling that someone was watching. Jasmine's world contracted to the narrow beam of her mission. Her emotions roared beneath a calm surface. Fear, hope, fury, love, all mixed into a storm she refused to back down from. She remembered her mother's fight, the voice that told her never to be invisible. "I won't be invisible anymore," Jasmine vowed, eyes blazing in the night. The mansion's golden frame wasn't just a relic, it was a challenge, a spark igniting a fire that would burn through lies, silence, and shadows. And Jasmine was ready to fight. The night of the gala arrived, an event shimmering with wealth and goodwill, but beneath its glitter lay the fragile illusion Jasmine was ready to shatter. Disguised as a waitress once more, she moved gracefully among the crowd, each step heavy. With the weight of her secret, the golden frame with her childhood photo had been just the beginning, a silent accusation waiting to be voiced. As Richard Blackwell stood center stage, delivering his rehearsed speech about loss and redemption, Jasmine's heart hammered. The man who had once passed her by like a ghost was about to be confronted with the undeniable truth. With steady hands, she took the microphone from an assistant, her voice cutting through the applause like a blade. "Mr. Blackwell," she said, eyes locking onto his, "you've spoken of losing a daughter, but you never told anyone she was alive, that you abandoned her, that you used her death and my mother's to build an empire of lies." Gasps rippled through the room as Jasmine unveiled forged documents, death certificates, and damning evidence of Richard's deception. The room's admiration turned to stunned silence, then chaos. Cameras flashed. Whispers turned to accusations. Richard's polished mask crumbled before their eyes. In that moment, Jasmine wasn't the invisible girl lost to foster care. She was a daughter reclaiming her story, a force of justice that no amount of money or influence could silence. Richard's arrest came swiftly. The man who had stolen millions, silenced a mother, and tried to erase a daughter's existence was finally held accountable. But Jasmine's victory was not just legal. It was deeply personal. Taking the helm of the very foundation Richard built on lies, Jasmine transformed it into a beacon of hope. With the stolen fortune redirected to real orphanages, scholarships, and families reunited, she honored her mother's legacy and rewrote her own future. Her journey, from a waitress serving champagne to an influential leader featured in national magazines, was a testament to resilience and the power of truth. "I was invisible once," Jasmine told a reporter during an interview, "but I learned that our past doesn't define us. It's what we do with our story that shapes our destiny." Reconnecting with her Aunt Sarah and uncovering the truth about Helena's activism gave Jasmine a family she never knew she had, a new beginning forged from heartbreak and courage. Her work exposed corrupt adoption agencies and helped protect countless children from suffering the fate she escaped. The legacy of silence was broken, the light of justice shone bright. And while Richard Blackwell languished behind bars, stripped of fortune and friends, Jasmine thrived, proof that even the darkest betrayals can give birth to the strongest transformations. This story teaches us that pain can be a powerful catalyst, that no matter how deep the wounds or how heavy the silence, the truth has a way of rising. It reminds us that family is not just blood or fortune. It's the love and justice we fight for. Most importantly, it shows that every one of us has the strength to rewrite our narrative, turning survival into triumph. As Jasmine stood before the crowd at the reopening of the 5th orphanage, watching children laugh and play in a place built from stolen lies reclaimed, she whispered to herself and to her mother's memory, "We did it, Mom. We turned the darkest night into the brightest dawn." And that dawn, born from courage, resilience, and truth, was a victory no prison, no lie, no betrayal could ever take away.